Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing yet another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Japan, South Korea. It's a co-production, a Japanese and Korean language with English subs, released in the year 2014, directed by Koji Shiriashi, and this film is called A Record of Sweet Murder. So A Record of Sweet Murder is about a reporter. She is onto a story of a lifetime. There is a serial killer that has escaped a mental institution, and she knew this serial killer when they were kids. So they grew up together, but there was a traumatic event that happened in this man's life that caused him to lose his mind. So he was locked up, but he's escaped and he's gone on a killing spree. So out of nowhere, this guy rings up this reporter and says that he has something for her that will give her the fame that she wants. So it's an opportunity too good to refuse. She takes a cameraman, goes to the apartment where he says that they will meet, but this is where she finds out that there's an ulterior motive for him asking her to come, and that motive is something to do with the traumatic past, which in turn puts everything in grave danger, and nothing is as it seems. And so what happens at that point on? Something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going. My synopsis. Now my thoughts on A Record of Sweet Murder. I was very, very excited to see this movie. Now, Koji Shiriashi is one of the most interesting directors out there for the simple fact that he's not a one-trick pony. Now, what I mean by that is he made a horror film. It's a found-footage horror film called Noroi the Curse. Now, that was a very, very scary movie, but it was a movie that was watered down to a point where it was actually marketed to a broad audience. But then all of a sudden, he went quiet for a while. Then he made a movie called Grotesque. Now, Grotesque was complete opposite of Noroi the Curse. This is a movie that was directed at a very acquired taste. It was a very, very extreme film. It was a torture movie, a pseudo-snuff film that really didn't have anything to it except for nastiness. And I didn't like that movie, but I could appreciate that film for the simple fact that this is a director who is branching out and trying to find where his strengths are. So that means that the next film, what was that going to bring? I've seen a movie that was watered down, and I've seen a movie that was very, very extreme. So if they combine those two together, what is this guy capable of? And so when I saw that A Record of Sweet Murder was directed by this guy, I thought I definitely have to see this film. I had skepticism coming into it because of the fact that Unearthed Films released it. Now, don't get me wrong, Unearthed Films is a very respectable company, but they have released some really good stuff and they've released some really bad stuff. Now, what makes this company very unique is that they specialise in very extreme films that other companies won't touch. So if you are an extreme fan, no doubt you've heard of Unearthed Films. And so this is a film that was released by Unearthed Films, which gave me the impression, was this going to be another sort of torture film? So with a lot of curiosity in the air, I thought to myself, I definitely have to watch this movie. And after watching this film, I will say this is one of the craziest horror movies that I have seen in a very, very long time. This is a movie that appears to have no control, but then before you know it, you realise there is control, and it hits you with the power of a sledgehammer. The ending of this movie was so far out of this world, you have to have a strong suspension of disbelief, but that suspension of disbelief does hit you on a reality base. And that was something that was so strange to me, is that I felt as though this is a runaway train and that this was going to have just a really messy explosion at the end, but ultimately that explosion is completely crazy, but there was a solid purpose behind it. And it made me think. It made me think about life and what we have to go through in order to get happiness. And so that to me was both quite, thoughtful, but at the same time very, very sinister. I'm not going to give anything away because the less you know about this movie, the better. But I thought as though, okay, this movie exists for a stronger purpose than that of Grotesque. Grotesque, as I said, was just an exercise in depravity, whereas this movie has the depravity. Don't get me wrong, this is a very, very extreme film. Very hard film to watch. Even me, I was cringing in some moments. There's a lot of cruelty towards other males. There's a lot of sexual violence and cruelty towards females, and basically nothing is off the cards. But you don't know where this movie is going to go in the depravity, and you don't quite know where this movie is going to go in the story. And because it's so crazy, it has a strong level of unpredictability, and that unpredictability keeps you interested. And it's like a roller coaster. It's going really, really fast. It's 100 miles an hour. You don't know where it's going. But then the second time you watch this film, you think, all right, well, amongst all the chaos, there was a certain level of control, control amongst chaos, because I thought, well, all right, this is a film that does take you out of left field, and it does have the entertainment, if entertainment's the right word, but ultimately the movie does have that purpose. It has that platform that gives the movie justification for existing, and that's something that I appreciated about it the most. Thought the acting was very good. The characters are larger than life, larger than life in the way that as I said, the depravity, these depraved characters, they shape each other in a way where it was entertaining, but at the same time very, very intimidating. I like the one setting of this apartment. This apartment just became a psychological battlefield as well as a very bloody battlefield as well. And I thought as though, the victims in this movie, as I said, nothing is quite as it seems. And so the initial sort of thought process you have at the start of the film is very different by the time it finishes. And so I thought, all right, well, this is just a mess. It's chaos, but it's chaos that I really, really enjoyed. So that was something that I really liked. I thought the script was actually very interesting. As I said, the way that the script evolves the story was very impressive, and it just showcases that this guy, this director, really knows what he's doing. And so it's typical Japanese craziness. You have South Korean qualities in there, thrown in there for good measure, and I just think it really plays well off each other. Everyone plays well off each other, and as I said, the violence is very hard-hitting, it's gory, it's brutal, and it will definitely upset the very sensitive people. So be very careful of that. But the ending was just something I haven't really seen before. It was completely silly, but at the end of the day, there was a strong level of realism to it. Realism in the sense that it made me think about, as I said, what we will do in order to get happiness. And so it does have that bitterness that the title suggests. The title is very relevant to the overall story, and so that was all very good. If I have a problem with this movie, as I said, it's for a very acquired taste. It's extreme, so that is ultimately not a problem for me, but it's going to be a problem for a lot of people. But I also thought the fact that it was set in one setting, and it was kind of, a shaky cam. I know a lot of people hate shaky cam. I really like it, so it didn't bother me. But if you are not a fan of found footage, then you're not going to like this movie. Although, as I said, the violence and what's happening you can actually see, so it's really well handled. But I thought as though the one setting, it does have a strong sense of stage play. It doesn't feel like a cinematic film. This is definitely a movie you watch in the basement. You don't want to watch it with a group of peoples because it's so depraved and it's so out of this world that most people are not going to like it. And so you do have that sense that this is a grungy sort of film. It's a movie that feels like a really, really depraved stage play. So it doesn't have that cinematic quality, but it doesn't strive out to be that cinematic film. And so this is something that I really appreciate about this director, and it's something that I really liked about this film. So be very careful. It is extreme, but if you can stomach it, I definitely think A Record of Sweet Murder is very, very impressive. So overall for this movie, going to give it 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.